aromatic, adventure.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Gonna screen capture that. Bingo. So, you guys know that I support large candle companies. You've seen me do evaluations on fragrances, like Yankee Candles fragrances. But where my heart really is in the small batch, micro batch, handcrafted artisan candle companies. Now let me just quickly explain this. Think about it, right? These large candle companies, we love them, they become tradition. But oftentimes, the decisions made are made by a panel of executives sitting around a room saying, hey, what's this season's candles gonna smell like? There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to small batch candle companies, from the conception to actually the mixology of the fragrance oils to the fabrication and the pouring of the actual candle, and in many cases, them shipping you the candle, is sometimes just one, two, a handful of people. These candle companies, they're truly artists, and their candles are coming from their passion for fragrance. And that, to me, is what's exciting, because I feel like I was born with a little bit of that passion. So people ask me, how do I find these small batch companies? How do I go about it? Because there's so many of them out there. And some of them can be incredibly hard to find. And it's a lot of trial and error. Sometimes you buy them and they're really just novelty candles. Well, this is what I do. I go on Instagram and I search and I search. And I look for products, companies, profiles that really pique my interest. People, artists who are taking aroma, scents, fragrance, and pushing the envelope. And a while ago, I found an Instagram profile, an account. I loved the look of their candles. I loved the concepts that they were producing. And I said immediately, I need to smell these candles. So I reached out to them. And guess what? They reached back. This is a company called GET FICTIONAL. Everything from literature to films, anything that's fictional. Hi Shane, thank you so much for reaching out. I've included 3 4-ounce candles. All of these candles are made with 100% soy wax and phthalate-free fragrance oils. They're all available in 16-ounce, 9-ounce, and 4-ounce sizes. I want to go through these one at a time and share with you my thoughts, my notes, my impressions, my sensory evaluation. Let's not waste any more time. Candle number 1. You gotta take it out of the package. Frankenstein. Frankenstein, the novel by Mary Shelley. It's a novel that I've read several times. It was actually the first book that I ever read cover to cover in one sitting. We have this thick, amber, translucent glass jar, and the label. We have this red wax stamp. This is like a note penned by Miss Shelley herself. It says, Frankenstein, and there's a Mary Shelley quote here, all save I were at rest or in enjoyment. I, like the arch fiend, bore a hell within me, and finding myself unsympathized with, wished to tear up the trees, spread havoc and destruction around me, and then have sat down and enjoyed the ruin. Mary Shelley. Woo. But what does this candle smell like? Let's give it a sniff. Now I want to let you know that the fragrance notes are right here on the label, and I did see them. But I'm trying to put that out of my mind for a moment. So clearly a very outdoorsy, alpine, carnivorous tree, pine tree approach here, because we get that rich cedar wood base note, but it's brightened up with I mean, we could say juniper berry, we could say pine needles, we could say pine sap, we could say pine cones, we could say terpene, we could say any of these things. But ultimately what it comes down to is, you know, pine trees or balsam or Douglas firs, any kind of Christmas tree or alpine evergreen tree, they all have that bright citrusy component. I talk about it all the time. Same thing with rosemary, the herb or thyme, for example. So we get that really robust wooden quality to this candle, but contrasted heavily by the brightness of that citrusy pine or alpine tree. That is a rich, antiqued wood smell. We could say antique store, we can say an old wooden cabin in the middle of the woods. Why am I saying that? Because if you've ever read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, you'll probably think of a few different scenes or at least portions of the book. So without going into this candle knowing that it's called Frankenstein, I could see someone saying, well, this seems like a perfectly beautiful winter or even holiday candle because of the Christmas tree, or at least the forest, the smell of that cozy cabin, that rich wooden smell that's slightly smoky and antiqued and dusty. The fragrance notes on this candle are cedar wood, pine embers, and frankincense. So frankincense, a little play on words, I think, frankincense and Frankenstein, but it definitely works, right? Because if you've read the novel, if you even look at the cover of this particular copy, you'll see that there's a portion of the story where Victor Frankenstein leaves Geneva and travels into the mountains, the glaciers, and ultimately finds his monster living in this mountainous region. And this makes perfect sense, right? Because if we think about those alpine trees, the trees that we would find that are covered in snow up on those mountains, the thick, rich wooden smells, or the sequence when the monster befriends the blind man inside the very modest cabin. It evokes a lot of those moments in the book. So winter fragrance, holiday fragrance, for sure. But if you're a true Mary Shelley's Frankenstein fan, this definitely is a concept that is fully fleshed out. And if you ask me, really well balanced. It's a powerful candle. It's rich. I mean, it like that cedar wood. We can think of that slab that the monster is laying on. If we want to think of more of the Universal Studios, Boris Karloff Frankenstein. Frankenstein by Get Fictional. We have two more candles. Let us move on. So a candle name that I have dealt with before, a location that I've been to many times. I've taken you guys there before. Sleepy Hollow, obviously in reference to Washington Irving's classic, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I love The Legend of Sleepy Hollow so much, I probably read it once a year. I've actually read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow inside the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. But let's take a look at the label first. Very similar to the Frankenstein candle. We have that red wax stamp, and then we have a quote from Washington Irving. He appeared to be a horseman of large dimensions, and mounted on a black horse of powerful frame. Ichabod was horror-struck on perceiving that he was headless, but his horror was still more increased on observing that the stranger's head was carried before him on the pommel of his saddle. So glad to say, different from, a lot different really, than other Sleepy Hollow candles that I have encountered here. I mean, what we would expect, a little bit of the outdoorsiness. We got to have that outdoorsy Hudson Valley, Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, that tucked away sleepy town in New York State. We need that foliage, the crushed leaves, the autumn leaves. But this isn't like a rustic, decaying leaf smell. You know, a lot of fragrances, when they use the description of autumn leaves or foliage, it's not so much decayed forest floor as it is this really bright and pretty, floral and a little bit fruity take on autumn leaves. And I find that this is kind of the approach that this is taking. So this is kind of a pretty take on freshly fallen leaves on the forest floor. Deep, dark bramble. I need to say things like cassis and black currant, berries, and that woodiness. Why not go with something like rosewood? Because that rosewood, I think, might be enhancing a little bit of that floral nature that I'm getting from the autumn leaf experience. When I said dark fruits, I meant it. It's not just dark berries. We have a lot of fruits. Everything from apples to peaches and nectarines and pears. Things like, even like golden raisins. It says it right here, spiced fruit, but I'm definitely getting that cooked down, baked fruit, but still some of it is very fresh and bright. Orange peel. I say this probably way more than I should, but this to me smells like a Sleepy Hollow inspired cocktail. I'm not kidding. A mixologist whipped me up a cocktail. Someone who really knows what they're doing, right? And they put that drink in front of me, and I smelled this. That rosewood could be the oak-aged spirit inside of that cocktail. The fruitiness could obviously be the liqueur that's used, or whatever that spirit is distilled from. Or any of that infused simple syrup that goes into that cocktail. And then, of course, that orange peel being the garnish of that cocktail. Again, I say a lot, but I'm really trying to drive home a point here, that this is authentic in that it does remind me of being outdoors. It does remind me of going through, strolls of smelling apples and peaches and nectarines in the Hudson Valley and going to farmers markets. But at the same time, if you told me I could take a sip of this candle, I might. It's very, very refreshing. So the fragrance notes on this candle: rustling leaves, dark forest, and spiced fruit. I think that says it all. I do get that icy blue spruce, a lot of those pine notes, some of the woodiness. I described it as rosewood, but definitely really well balanced, and smells very pretty. So if you're looking for a different take on a Sleepy Hollow candle, this is a pretty good option, if you ask me. I will be very happy to burn this candle this Halloween season. But we still have one more candle to go. Let's take a look-see at this one. Oh no. Cue the sound bite. You have to put that in here. Can you guess what this is? So no literature here. This is Friday the 13th, and right here on the label we have that classic Jason Voorhees hockey mask. Kind of looks like the hockey mask that we see in Friday the 13th Part 3. Do we have a flannel shirt on the side? It looks like we have maybe a fishing pole. You gotta have a fishing pole at a summer camp, right? Let me ask you this question in the comments below. What do you like more, Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th? Put that in the comments below. Let me know. And if you ask me, I'll be happy to share my opinion with you. But let's give this candle a sniff. What could Friday the 13th smell like? It's gonna smell like Jason? No, it does not smell like Jason, but let me tell you, that smells kind of delicious. I mean, it really takes you only a couple seconds to figure out the direction of this candle. I mean, the first thing undeniably that comes through is the fresh, right out of the bag, like State Puffed marshmallow, the marshmallow that we're gonna put on that twig and roast on top of that campfire. So I am getting the raw marshmallow, and I'm also getting the powdery substance. I don't know, what is it? I mean, is it just powdered sugar? But that powdery substance has a very specific aroma, doesn't it? Does it not? Or is it just me? I don't know. But there is a roasted side to this, but not smoky, not burnt, not even caramelized. This is like how I like to roast my marshmallows. You know, when I'm camping, I take that marshmallow and I hold it away from the fire. And I slowly let the sugar from that marshmallow warm up, caramelize very slowly. It enhances the flavor, it alters the flavor. So not necessarily a smoky, toasted, and nothing burnt here, but a toasted marshmallow for sure. However, I will say that there is a campfire, or at least a firewood component here. It came right to me as soon as I smelled this. With the marshmallow, association, I'm thinking about white, hot cocoa. Have you ever had Land O'Lakes Arctic white hot cocoa? Not homemade stuff, it's in the powder form, but I love that stuff. And sitting by the campfire, that totally makes sense, right? You have a nice warm beverage, and if you're at summer camp, you can't be drinking beer. You can't be. I mean, maybe the kids are spiking the hot chocolate with something, but not in this case. If they're spiking it with anything, it's a little bit of baking spices. Think about just that little dash, that little sprinkle of the nutmeg or the cinnamon on top of that mug of creamy, thick, viscous white hot cocoa. This could be that camping summertime campfire treats, marshmallow, white chocolate, little bit of baking spice, some firewood, camping in the great outdoors experience. Or this could be that cold night in October, sitting by the bonfire, a Stanley thermos of that hot cocoa, and that smell of that firewood just floating in the air. This can work for Halloween. This could work for summer. So that's kind of interesting. So if you want to burn this in the summer, go for it. If you want to burn this in the cold nights of autumn, go for it. Heck, if you want to burn this in the spring, go for it. If you ever want to escape to Camp Crystal Lake and hopefully try to stay out of the clutches of Jason Voorhees and his mother, this could certainly be a candle for you. This one is really friendly. This will certainly be enjoyed by just about anybody, even if they're not necessarily a candle person. This is very delicious and very nicely layered. I like it. Friday the 13th by Get Fictional. So 3 candles, 3 very different fragrances, 3 very different pieces of fiction. A big shout out to Get Fictional and Keely for supplying these candles. Please share the love in the description below. Visit Get Fictional's social media, their Instagram. Take a look at what they have for the Halloween season and I guess the seasons to follow. I certainly enjoyed sniffing all 3 of these. That's it for today. I will be burning all of these for Halloween. Thank you once again, and thank you for joining me. I will be seeing you folks soon, but until then, be good, stay safe, and watch out for those edge tools. They can be quite sharp.